Hello and welcome to another episode of Chat That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. And that's the important thing. I'm Lesley.
And I'm Shawna.
And today we are bringing you another, I'm not going to call it a deep dive because it's a little deck instead of a big deck. And I kind of feel like the Commander ones were like big, and so they were really deep. But we're going to do a series for you in preparation for those of you that play Standard in preparation for, what do you call it? Rotation. Wow.
The cards getting out of here.
Cards are getting out of here. Throne of Eldraine is just around the corner. The book comes out in just a couple days. And so I'm super excited about that. I'm sure I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm sure we will see previews happening soon. It's usually 2 weeks before, so you can look for some videos there. But what's going to happen is we are losing a ton of sets. So what's leaving?
Which sets are we losing? We're losing
Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, and Dominaria, and Core 19.
Yes.
4 sets disappearing with all of those cards.
Because I really like Ixalan cards.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what's coming with Throne of Eldraine. There might be some cards that are similar to those or some reprints that we are hoping to not get rid of. However, we have all these wonderful standard decks that we've been playing so happily for the last year, and there are some of them have half of their cards rotating out. So today we're going to talk to you about Orzhov Aggro. It's one of the decks that's being played in some of the top 8 decks. And yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what this deck is supposed to do when it's played, and then we'll talk about the cards and what is staying and what's leaving and what you might be able to already replace them with in the sets. Okay, so what does the deck do?
Well, this deck is all about getting that person out of there as quick as it can. So it's very, very aggressive. There's some death touch, there's a little bit of life gain, but not a lot. Its point is to just get lots of creatures out there really fast and take away your life really quickly.
So the point,
It's very aggro.
So the point is, it's a very creature-heavy deck, or
yes. There's not a lot of removal actually, which can be a problem sometimes if you get behind. But we'll talk about that.
What would you say are some of the downfalls of this deck?
Definitely anything board wipes. Much Leslie's favorite thing, board wipes.
I hate board wipes. I do not. Don't make it sound like I use board wipes. I don't use board wipes. I hate them.
So board wipes for sure. Anything, because these are a lot of small creatures, so anything that can gives everybody -2/-2.
Yeah.
Things like that kind of thing.
Because you play this deck.
Yes, I do a lot.
And the Orzhov Aggro, it's called Orzhov Aggro, but really it's more vampire aggro, right? Yeah. So that's because vampires typically, at least the ones chosen for this deck, are super low mana cost, converted mana cost, and really quick to get out and swing.
Some have evasion and
So strategy of playing this, would you say get your creatures out really, really fast and just swing with them regardless of whether they have blockers, or how much do you kind of like hold back? Or do you have to be...
You have to be very aggressive with this. You have to let your creatures die. What's nice about newer versions of this is that it does have a little bit of card draw and a little bit of getting the cards back from the graveyard. But that can be a problem now that people are doing things against your graveyard too. So it's really getting your creatures out as fast as you can, but keeping as much as you can back, because you are going to get wiped. Totally.
Yeah.
So
first, what we're going to do is we're going to break down. Here's everything that's typically in it. There's various different count of cards for what's in there. So we're not going to go over how many of the cards are in it. Typically, you're playing play sets, which is a set of 4 of each of those cards. And some of the decks, of course, if you counted up all the cards we gave you and put 4 of each, you'd have more than 60 cards. That's not our intent. This is not a deck that is complete. This is the deck that you should play. We did our research based on what we play as well as what is out there in the top 8 right now, and looked at all the decks and broke down what the main cards that all the decks are kind of using in some way, shape, or form. So sometimes people will play 2 of, or 3 of, or 1 of those cards in a mixture. And that really will take, even if you do decide to take a deck off the internet and like make it and play with it, you're going to tweak it a little bit to make it work for your meta that is in your community, because every meta is a little bit
what
different.
You like to play. Like, I am not going to put Teferi in the deck because I don't like playing
She
Teferi.
hates Teferi!
Even though I do play a blue and white deck, which Teferi would probably be good in, but
one day.
I just don't want to play it.
Maybe one day you love Teferi.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Someone do some really good cosplay of Teferi and just give her a hug and maybe she'll...
He's a good guy, but, you know.
He's a good guy, yeah. So let's look at the land of this. We have, we'll maybe go 3 at a time here and just see. So the first 3 land that we have are non-basic lands. We have Godless Shrine, which comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life, which is nice versatility. We have Isolated Chapel, which comes in tapped unless you have a plains or a swamp, and Unclaimed Territory, which is nice because you can choose a creature type. In this deck, you would probably choose vampires. You should choose vampires. And then you can use it for any color if you're choosing vampires. Yeah. So that's the first 3 non-basic. Actually, that's the only 3.
Yeah, those are the main ones for the Orzhov deck. It doesn't have a lot of choices as far as that goes. You can have Temple of Silence in there as well. But it comes in tapped. Yes, and that comes to one of our suggestions later of what we can put in. Right. So that's rotating. Another. Well, that one's not rotating. Yeah. We just got it. So the rest of it is going to be basic lands. So those are our 3 kind of non-basic lands. What about creatures? Where are we looking at for creatures? What's so the number 1 card pretty much in every aggro deck that has white in it is the Adanto Vanguard. That card is an amazing, amazing card, regardless of what deck it's in. It's for 1 and a white, 1/1, and as long as it is attacking, it gets +2/+0, and you can pay 4 life to make it indestructible. Yeah. So that's the nice thing about that one, right? Is it's meant to be aggressive. You don't attack with this. You don't. I mean, you can hold it back and block with it and have it as indestructible if they have something that's super big that doesn't have trample. But you're meant to attack with this, and if they get their big thing that has trample out, you've lost. Yep. So you might as well quit. I mean, don't do that. So the next one is Vona, Butcher of Magan. It's 3 and a black and a white. It's a legendary creature, vampire knight. It's got vigilance. It's got lifelink. It's a 4/4, really great card. And you can tap it and pay 7 to destroy target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only during your turn. So it is kind of at sorcery speed, but 7 life. It's okay. You can pay 7 life. There's no problem, and your life is a resource in Magic. It has vigilance and lifelink itself, so you're gaining 4 life back. So great little workhorse there. Yeah, it's your removal that you don't normally have. The next card is Champion of Dusk, which is for 3 and 2 black. It's a 4/4. And when it enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. So this is that card draw that this deck needs badly. Yeah. So that's his job, and a big blocker, but mostly that's what he does. And again, we will talk about which ones are leaving. These 3 are them, 3 of them, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Knight of Ebon Legion is a 1 mana cost, 1/2 knight, which just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You can pay 3 to have it gain +3/+3 and death touch until the end of the turn, and then at the beginning of your end step, if a player, including yourself, lost 4 or more life this turn, you put a counter on it. Let's say you paid 7 life in order to or you paid to keep your Adanto remove something, or you paid to keep your Adanto alive. Now you've put a counter on this guy. He just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So he is a must-have in this deck. Yep. The next one is Legion Lieutenant for 1 white and 1 black. He is the Lord for the vampires because he gives other vampires +1/+1. He's 2/2.
He's
It's a bear that you have to have in this vampire deck.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I sure hope they replace him. Sanctum Seeker is a nice little card because it rewards you for attacking.
Yes.
2 and 2 black. It's a vampire knight. That's a 3/4. But whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain life. So you get all your life back. If you've lost it, you've paid it. You've done all these things, and all you have to do is attack with your vampires, which we've already told you to do. So
swing lots. Sky Marcher Aspirant, another staple to this deck. For 1 white, it's a 2/1 that if you have City's Blessing, so you have Ascend, it gets flying when you have that. So it's a quick
awesome for an aggressive deck,
and fast.
Especially with this deck because it doesn't take that long to get 10 permanents on the battlefield. So Ascend is if you control 10 or more permanents, you get City's Blessing, and you get to keep that for the rest of the game. It doesn't matter if you lose all your permanents or not. You have City's Blessing, and your permanents, of course, your land. For those of you that are new, also count as a permanent. So, Vicious Conquistador, 1. For 1, it's a 1/2, 1 black. Whenever Vicious Conquistador attacks, each opponent loses a life. So again, rewards you for attacking. You just want to be aggressive and attack. So moving into
instances and sorceries. So there are a few in our deck here, and the first one is Cast Down. For 1 and a black, it's a little uncommon from Dominaria. Destroy target non-legendary creature, and it's a card that's worth more than $1.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to stay that way.
I don't know, because, we'll see what happens after rotation.
But pretty darn handy.
Might bring it back.
It's
interesting. I mean, it's because it's 2, and it's at instant speed, but it does destroy non-legendary creatures. So that can kind of get you
got me.
From time to time.
Yep.
So then there's Legion's End for 1 and a black. It's a sorcery. It allows you to exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost of 2 or less, and all other creatures that player controls with the same name as that creature. Then that player reveals their hand and exiles all cards of that name and from their graveyard as well. So basically that super annoying card that they have that, I mean, it is mana cost 2 or less, so it is a little bit shady, but things like a Johnny's Pride Mate, which is staying. There's lots of other tokens.
The mirror match.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure, the mirror match. This is a good card to have against somebody else who's playing vampires.
Yes.
Plus you get to see their hand. So even if you're only removing 1 card,
just
you get
the
to
knowledge
see their hand.
for 2.
Yeah.
So,
Mortify for 1, a white and a black. It is an instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. And Lord knows we need enchantment removal. We definitely need creature removal, and it's instant speed, so you can do it on their turn.
People are playing a lot more with enchantments these days, it seems. So then we move into some of the other cards that we have in this deck. They don't really fit into the other categories. First one is Legion's Landing, which is our own little legendary enchantment. Great card. It's a must-have again in this deck. Legion's Landing enters the battlefield. You get to create a little 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. And when you attack with 3 or more creatures, you transform Legion's Landing. And the nice thing is when this transforms, it allows you to just pay 3 and create another 1/1 vampire token. So rewards you for attacking with 3. We love it when they reward you for attacking. That's basically in this deck, you want stuff that rewards you for attacking.
The next one is the Soren Imperious Bloodlord. It is for 2 and a black, a 4 loyalty planeswalker. That his +1 is target creature you control gains death touch and lifelink until end of turn. If it's a vampire, put a 1/1 counter on it, which they are. And another +1, you may sacrifice a vampire. When you do, Soren deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. And -3, you may put a vampire creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you can do that right away.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
And that one just came out in M20.
Yes.
Everyone seems to be playing with it. The next one, Soren Vengeful Bloodlord. Not everybody is playing with this one. Some people have already kind of rotated it out of their decks. Or
yeah.
I mean, it's worth a spark, so it is staying. But not everyone is playing with this one. But there was a few, so we included it in our thing anyway. I'm just going to make this bigger because I'm blind.
To see that.
all those little.
He's a 4
small
loyalty
types.
as well.
Yes, 4 loyalty, and he costs 4. So 2 and a white and a black. As long as it's your turn, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink. So that's nice to have.
Yes.
Especially when you're paying life for things. Soren, Vengeful Bloodlord, deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. That's his +2, which is nice that he has a +2.
Yes.
And then he has a -X, which is really great for being versatile. Return target creature with converted mana cost of X from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a vampire. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. So if you have those things that are giving buffs to your vampires or your Legion's Lieutenant, it just comes back as a vampire, even if it's not a vampire. So Doom Whisperer or whatever.
Okay. Another card that some decks are playing with some aren't right now is the Vampire of the Dire Moon, which is for 1. It's a 1/1 lifelink death touch. And it's just a good little vampire to have out.
Yeah, not everyone's playing with that one
plays with it
yet. But I think after rotation, if this is going to stay, it'll probably be. So now let's talk about what's leaving and what we need to replace. So gosh, we're losing a lot.
Lots.
For land, we're losing Isolated Chapel and Unclaimed Territory. So we're left with Godless Shrine, one of the non-basic lands. So we need to figure out what we're doing to replace that. What about creatures? What are we losing for those?
We're losing a lot because a lot of those vampires came from Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan. So Adanta Vanguard, Valna, the Champion of Dusk, the Legion Lieutenant, Sanctum Seeker, Vicious Conquistador, Sky Marcher, Aspirant.
Wow.
That's a lot.
So many, practically your whole deck is disappearing here. Not very much that's staying as far as creatures. As far as instants and sorceries, all we're losing is Cast Down. The other ones that are in there are staying. So really just 1 removal spell. There is some creatures that can remove things that are disappearing, but just 1 removal. So that should be easy to do. We are keeping for creatures Knight of Ebon Legion, Vampire of the Dire Moon, and then as far as other ones, what are we keeping for the other ones?
Mortify, the 2 Sorens for sure, and the land, I think there's the
Godless Shrine.
Godless Shrine, that's what it's called. In my brain. Totally forgot.
All right, so now we need to figure out, okay, with those things that are leaving, we're losing Adanto. He's super aggressive, attacks really fast. We're losing some removal creatures. We're losing a bunch of different vampires that buff up. So what do you see that you're currently using that we can already use? Obviously, when Throne of Eldraine comes out, you're going to want to watch for stuff that replaces those things as well. So we don't have that information for you right now. Can't tell you what to do there, but we can tell you what we would put in from M20 or the Spark that might help you fill those gaps until we know what Eldraine is going to do.
Yeah.
So what do you got?
So the one thing, if you're going to stick with the vampire theme, which hopefully we can, hopefully there'll be some with the Throne of Eldraine, that Icon of Ancestry is very powerful. It's a lot more powerful than the Radiant Destiny card that I used to use in my vampire deck. So the Icon of Ancestry is an artifact for 3, and it enters the battlefield. You choose a creature type, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. So that's awesome. And you can pay 3 and tap it at any time to look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So
and that's the nice thing about this, that last part.
Yeah, you can get some of those cards. That's that card draw that we lose from Champion of Dusk. Right.
And then, so Thirsting Bloodlord is kind of our replacement for Legion Lieutenant. It's not as good. Sorry, guys. It's not nearly as good because it costs 4. Now, 4 is not an unreasonable cost to pay for an aggro deck, but it is on the higher end. You probably don't want anything that costs more than 4 in your deck. But other vampires you control get +1/+1, and it's a 3/3.
He's a 3/3.
So he's a little bit better as far as a body goes. Instead of being a 2/2, he's a 3/3, and he buffs up all your vampires, which is what you want for your aggro. So yeah, he would be a decent one, and he's only black, so you don't have to have 2 colors of mana out for him.
Yeah. Savage Gorger is for 1 and 2 black. It's a 1/1, but it's a flyer, so we don't have a lot of flying in our vampire deck anyway, so he helps with that. Plus, at the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost life this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. So it is going to grow, which is really handy.
I would say that's better than the. So this one kind of replaces Sky Marcher Aspirant, which is white. It's 3. That's reasonable for a 1/1, but it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So
that's a decent swing with it. Even, hopefully
swing with it right away. And then actually another flyer that we have as a suggestion for this is, of course, Bloodthirsty Aerialist. You'll already see this in a lot of the aggro decks being played. It's a great card. It's 1 and 2 black for a vampire rogue with flying. It's a 2/3 when it comes in. You'll notice that the art is upside down in this, which is really funny. Anyway, when you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Bloodthirsty Aerialist. So really nice.
You're going to have that life gain.
Yeah, and even if it's not, it's a 2/3 flyer right off the bat. It's a vampire that's being buffed up by your Icon of Ancestry and your other Bloodlord. So you can count on it. If you make it a 4 or 5 and just keep swinging with it, it's fine.
Game over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Another little one here is Dusk Mantle Operative. I like this little card. It's for 1 and a black. It's not a vampire, but with Soren, if you bring it back, it becomes a vampire.
Right.
Yes.
So play with the other Soren too.
Exactly. It's another reason to play that. So Dusk Mantle Operative can't be blocked by creatures with power 4 or greater. So it's a really good little sneaky guy that gets in there for some damage and can potentially help that other card buff because it's in there for damage.
And people are losing their Steel Leaf Champions from Dominaria, so you don't have to worry about those 3 mana cost 5/4s that are getting in there right away, so that should help the aggro a little bit. So another creature that's not a vampire that we thought might be good for this, because it does some good work for you, is Lazotep Reaver. It's a 1/2 for 2, 1 in a black, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to amass 1. So you're getting 2 creatures for the price of 1. Which gives you blockers, it gives you swingers, gives you things to swing with.
Whoa.
Family show. And then you get to put a 1/1 counter on the army if you have another one. It's nice that the amass happens when it enters the battlefield. So all you got to do is put it down in order to get to you.
Yeah.
So.
Another one you can potentially bring back for cheap.
Exactly.
From Soren.
Exactly. And amass
again.
Like
those. Yep.
So
some removal.
Yes.
So Lilianas Triumph is from War of the Spark. For 1 and a black, I use this card. It's an instant, and each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you control a Liliana Planeswalker, which is a bonus, they also discard a card. But the biggest thing is they have to sacrifice a creature. So at an instant speed, I like to use it when they've just put out their Lyra or something big and crazy.
Yeah.
And bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's the only creature they have.
Hopefully that's the only creature they have, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is the Elder Spell for 2 black. Destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control, put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way. Now, this is, I would say, a sideboard card that you would put in. We have seen a lot more Super Friends decks.
Yes,
a lot of even just basic standard decks right now are because of War of the Spark, they have a planeswalker in them. So your Tefiris, your Lilianas, your Chandras, there's so many planeswalkers out there. Plus then you have the 2, if you're playing with your Sorens, you have some planeswalkers to put some loyalty counters on. So I would wait obviously until you know that they're playing planeswalkers to have it. Don't put it in your main board, but have it in your sideboard for sure.
Definitely.
And it fits with your colors, so you should play it.
We do have another vampire here, Vampire Opportunist. When I first saw this card, I didn't think it was that great. It's pretty okay for drafting, but it fits well in this deck. For 1 and a black, it's a 2/1. And later on in the game, you can use it to just knock off a little bit of life and gain some life. So that might help your Vampire Aerialist gain some counters.
Yeah, because we're losing a lot of aggression. Again, this isn't like you should absolutely have this card in yours.
It's just an idea.
But it's just an idea for if you're losing a little bit of your aggression and you kind of petered out and you need that little bit, a few more turns to get your kills in, this can help you with that for sure. Yeah. So then we have Forbidden Spirit. It's 1 and 2 white for a 3/3 flyer. When Forbidden Spirit enters the battlefield, until your next turn, creatures can't attack you.
It's not a flyer.
Oh, it's sorry. Yes, it is. Oh, I always think spirits should be flyers.
They should be.
Every spirit should be a
Spirits
flyer.
should be flyers.
Anyways.
Wizards. Spirits should be flyers.
Anyways, when Forbidden Spirit enters the battlefield, until your next turn, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 2 for each of those creatures. So, again, this isn't one that I would say you should absolutely be playing with this. You're an aggressive deck. You don't want to have things that are just to kind of keep them from attacking you. But if you need those few extra turns, this could be a great little sideboard option for you. And it's a 3/3 for 3, so it's a little bit bigger. It's within your curve. You don't have to worry about paying for it, right? So
it's a really good sideboard card for going against red deck wins because they don't usually have a lot of mana and he's a little bit hard to get rid of. So it just makes them back off for a minute so that you can build up your board again because they've killed your guys.
They've board wiped. Or
Yes. Yeah.
They're
So
losing Goblin Chain Whirler.
they are. Thank goodness.
So, you know, you're losing a lot
Yeah.
if you're playing this deck, but they're losing a lot too. So.
Yeah. The next card is Tidetaker. It's another one of these cards that just kind of keep them back away from you a little bit for 1 and a white. It's a human soldier, so not a vampire. But during your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate, unless they're mana abilities. Plus, this has Afterlife 1, so it comes back as a flyer, which is nice. Afterlife is when it dies, you make a spirit token, so which they fly.
Yeah, Afterlife is actually really great
Yeah.
for aggressive, and I think we have some suggestions in here with other Afterlife cards, just because it doesn't matter if they die, they get another creature to replace themselves and you can keep swinging, so great for that. Another one that I think I would argue should probably be in your main board just because it's such a great card is Unbreakable Formations for 2 and white. It's an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible until the end of turn. Right now there are so many board wipes in standard because it's such a large pool of cards to choose from. A lot of those are going, but we still have, I think, Cry the Crinarium is staying.
Yeah, I think that's Ravnica.
And we have a few others that have just come out. I think Planar Cleansing is in M20.
Yep.
So there are definitely still some board wipes, and board wipes are the bane of your existence if you're playing this creature aggro deck. So you need something to stop them from that. It has addendum, which means if you cast the spell during your main phase, then you get to put a +1/+1 counter on each of these creatures, and they gain vigilance until the end of turn. So it's a nice little combat trick as well, because well, you pay it before combat, so it's not a combat trick, but it just buffs up your creatures, makes them aggressive, and makes you swing. Anything that rewards you for swinging.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to be doing. Another little card that I thought would be good is the Blood Mist Infiltrator for 2 and a black. It is a 3/1 vampire that you can make. When it's attacking, you can sacrifice another creature and make it unblockable. Unblockable is very handy. And
super annoying.
One of the
Love it.
things with the reason why we have these Afterlife cards is because it is nice to sacrifice those guys because they are going to come back as another creature. So, and there's other things too. So he's a vampire. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. So Gutter Bones is 1 black for a 2/1. You love those. So you'll notice that the last few that we've said are like 3/1s, 2/1s. Basically, if you see a 3/1 and 2/1, it's meant to be aggressive and attack with it. There's a reason why it has a small little butt, because it wants to be aggressive. Anyways, Gutter Bones enters the battlefield tapped, because of course you're going to play, it's a 2/1 that you play on your first turn. You can play 1 and a black and return Gun of the Boats from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn and only if your opponent lost life this turn. So as soon as they lose life again, because you're being super aggressive, this comes back to your hand. This is definitely going to see replacement value in this deck, I think, for aggression. It already has in some decks. So this will be seen for sure.
Yeah, he's that sacrificial lamb as well for things like the blood mist.
Exactly. You can sacrifice him because it doesn't matter. Bring him back.
Another one is Orzhov Enforcer for 1 and a black. It's a human rogue, a 1/2 death toucher. So he is meant for defense, and he has afterlife 1 as well. So he becomes a spirit when he dies. So you can either use him for blocking or use him for that sacrificial lamb.
People do not want to block this. So it is a great little attacker because it has death touch and it has afterlife. So they either kill their creature or they give you a spirit.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do either. So they'll say, fine, I'll take 1.
Yep.
Ping, 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 ping. It only takes you 20 turns to win, but you can win. Spawn of Mayhem! The Spawn of Mayhem. Great card. Definitely seeing play right now. I think we'll make it into a lot of the little aggro decks. It's only 4, so it's at the high end of your mana cost, but it is a 4/4 for 4, so it's right on curve. It has Spectacle for 1 and blue, and which just means that you can 1 and 2 blacks blue. Starts with a B. You can cast it for its spectacle cost rather than pay its mana cost if your opponent lost life this turn. So second main phase or whatever you need to do to make them lose life. It has flying, it has trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then if you have 10 or less life, put a 1/1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem.
Yeah. He is Mayhem.
And that's at the beginning of your upkeep.
He's ugly.
So it's not just the first upkeep that you have less than 10.
What?
It says at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then if you have 10 or less life. So when you have 9 life, when you have 8 life, when you have 7 life, when you have 6 life, when you have 5 life, he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's making himself bigger. Soon. You should probably kill him, or you need, but that's the point. It's aggressive. You want to be aggressive. You want to be attacking in. It's flying and trample. You will be attacking in, and you will win the game if you are aggressive.
Imperious Oligarch, one of my favorite cards. Because she's a grandma.
Yeah.
For 1 and a black, a 2/1. Here's another afterlife card. She has vigilance, which is really awesome. So again, it's very aggressive. If she dies, that's okay because she comes back as a spirit. And it just does a lot of work for you. This card has done so much for me in various decks.
Yeah. And then there's Prison Realm, which is another little removal card that is from War of the Spark. It's 2 and a white. And when Prison Realm enters the battlefield, exile target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls until Prison Realm leaves the battlefield. Works on planeswalkers and creatures, which is fantastic. And when Prison Realm enters the battlefield, you get to scry. So I would argue this probably could make the main deck because it deals with your creatures and your planeswalkers, and that scry is super important.
Yeah.
So definitely not least. Saved the best for last.
So one of the cards that just has to get added, especially with the creatures dying idea that you're going to be having here, is the Cruel Celebrant. They get punished for every time they kill one of your creatures. Plus, you can deliberately kill some of your creatures and still get benefit from it. So a Cruel Celebrant is for 1 and a black, a 1/2. And whenever another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it just helps that whole engine. Plus it's a vampire. It's just, it's going to do lots for you. It doesn't easily disappear because it's got a 2 toughness. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and it works in other decks too. I know Shawna has this really amazing deck that's not aggressive at all. You basically just sit back and let them swing at you and kill your creatures off, and then they kill themselves by doing it. It's really amazing.
Yep, I don't say much for that at all.
She ends up with 40 life, and you end up with 0. It's awesome. But yes, Cruel Celebrant would be great for that, being aggressive. So yeah, that is our video on Orzhov Aggro and how you can prepare for rotation. Not that any of us is ever really prepared for rotation, but things to look for. you know what's leaving, and hopefully you'll find some cards. If you have suggestions of things that you're already playing in this, or that you are hoping to see, or that you think we're completely wrong and you have other suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Please let us know. We are connected in all the social media, so follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We have Podbean, and we're on Spotify and iTunes. So yeah, Google Play, all of the things. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Just come find us. Thank you so much for sticking that out. And if you liked what you saw, please subscribe. We'd love to contact with you on a regular basis. So,
and in the meantime,
tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. See you later,
Bye,
guys.
guys.